ॐ श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। इत्येवं पृष्ठवते मृत्युरुवाच पृष्टुं वस्तु विशेषणान्तरं न विवक्षन्। Sorry, cha vivakshan, not vivakshan. The question that was asked, he gives an answer. Okay, in brief, I will tell you, Om ityetat. Om it is. One single syllable. You can't get briefer than that. Om it is. Now, when we are trying to understand any object, we need a word to describe it. Pada and padartha. We need that. Otherwise, how would I connect an object with the idea of the object? When I say an apple, similar kind of message, similar kind of image appears in everybody's mind. We have a word to describe everything in this jagat, including feelings, intangibles. Everything is, and including mithya, like a dream object. I had a nightmare. We need a word. This padam and padartha are totally connected. You can't separate them. Kalidasa uses it beautifully in this prayer verse, which he writes for Raghuvamsha. The pada and padartha are inevitably connected. You can't separate them. And he prays to Bhagavan. And remember, he's writing his Raghuvamsha. Therefore, there is important for him to understand pada and padartha, because the pada is going there and the padartha has to be understood by the reader. So he writes, Vagarta Pratipattaye, Vak and Artha. Jagata Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau. Parvati and Parameshwara inseparable. And they are the Pitarau. the Mata Pita of the Jagat, the cause of the Jagat. To that, I give my salutations. Jagata Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau. Like word and its meaning. Now, we are trying to understand something not so easy because it's an object. There also we need something. How do we understand that? Till I understand that what am I trying to understand is I need a word. Once I understand that, I don't need anything. And to understand that, I need a word, and that word is till the time I am trying to figure out that aparoksha jnanam. It is I that I'm talking about. I need only till then. Till then, I need Ishvara. I need Ishvara's grace because I is separate from Ishvara. There is an Ishvara, there is an I. And therefore, I is separate from Ishvara till some point. Till then, I beg for Ishvara's grace. I seek Ishvara's grace in every form I can think. And for that, I give Ishvara, which is nothing other than Brahman. Now, I don't know that yet. That Brahman concept itself, I need a word like Brahman. You can also expand the word. Sanskrit is a beautiful language. Even Brahman will open up. That which is very large, Mahat. Meaning that with nothing can be larger. That which is Purnatvam. But that's a meaning part of it. That's where you understand the nature of Brahman. And if that is where then you argue, then you work out that's I. But till I get there, I have to have a word, Brahman. Okay, I have something called Brahman, which I'm trying to understand, which Nachiketa is also trying to understand. Nachiketa is a very advanced student. He's already got so far as to be able to say that this is something which transcends dharma, dharma, which transcends karana and karya, which transcends time. It is desha, kala, vastu, anavachinna. That's why he's asking that very specific question. But he still doesn't know what it is. Because he's not yet come to the state of recognizing the I. Once you recognize, everything drops. Till then, you need this something to represent it. Call it Brahman. But Yamadharmaraja takes up Nachiketa's question and gives him the briefest possible answer. Om is everything. You will notice I use Om for everything. I use Om to greet people. I use Om to thank people. I use Om to say bye. Om is everything. And there was once, I remember a child who would come 3-4 years old. She would come regularly because her brother used to come here for classes. And when they were about to leave, everybody came, did namaskara, and I said Om. So her mother asked her, do you know what Om means? She said, yes. Om means bye-bye. Because to her, that's what she's saying. But Om is everything. Because she's seen me say Om for everything. Sri Gitama says Om for everything. So Yamadharma Raja simply says, in Sankshepa, I tell you, it is one single syllable, ekaksharam, Om. Then he will elaborate later. Understand that this entire thing, the Adhara is Om. Immediately is confusion. Very easy to comprehend. So you take Om to represent the entire Jagat. Om can also be broken up in many ways. On the one hand, you can think of Om as just one single akshara. It is not Aum. That sounds like a dog baying. But you can really understand akshara. Akshara itself means two things. Akshara is varna, alphabet. Now the whole Jagat, like I said, is represented with words. Therefore, akshara, although it represents the letter, these letters represent the entire Jagat. Tangible, intangible, near, far, known, unknown, everything. And that is the Tatpada, Ishvara. Therefore, one can take Om and say it's an Akshara. It represents the entire Jagat. And the cause for the entire Jagat as Ishvara. That's one way of looking at it. Another meaning for Akshara, na ksharati iti is Akshara. That which never gets destroyed. It never gets destroyed because there's never origin for it. There's no origin for it. No beginning, there's no end. No adi, no anta, no madhyama. You will see this again and again everywhere. Bhagavad Gita also says that, 11th chapter, Bhagavan says, Arjuna says, I see that which is without beginning, without end, without madhya. Because he had Devya Chakshu. Otherwise, how do you see something which has no beginning, no end? You can't see it. Because he had Divya Chakshu, he was able to see it. Because if it is without beginning, without end, without middle, then it must be you. There can't be any other way. And you can't see you. That which is endless, that which is cannot be destroyed, is also Akshara. So on the one hand, you can look at it as saying, this is Ishvara, because it all the Akshara letters, Varna, and they represent the entire world, entire Jagat, sorry, not even world. Or it is the Akshara, that which is never there. It has no beginning, no end, nothing. Purnatva. And this Akshara and is Ekakshara. You will see that again in many places, including the Bhagavad Gita. It is not A-U-Ma. They are what create Om. But once they are created, Om is Om, only one Akshara. Now look at it this way. Om, if you think of it in terms of A-U-Ma, and you know that entire Jagat is nothing but sounds because there are words. The entire range of sounds that is possible is contained in Om. And therefore, it is represents the entire Jagat, as in the case of Akshara, Varnamala, and therefore Ishvara. Saguna Brahman. A starts from here. Open your mouth, it's A. Close your mouth, it's Ma. A. Everything else in between is represented by U. But together they make Om. Om is not really a Sanskrit word. Although I'm breaking it down and giving you A, U, Ma as aksharas combined to form Om, Om is really a pratika. A pratika is a sound symbol. It's just a sound, symbolizing something. That Om. You can also derive that Om. Ishvara is that from which everything is created in this Jagat, that which sustains everything, and into which everything revolves. And for that, there's so many examples that Shastra gives us. In the universe of clay objects, or everything originates from clay, is sustained by clay, and they eventually go back into clay. Again, all these Shastras, all the Vedas, all the Upanishads say the same thing. Sarve Veda Yat Padamamananti. Without any change, expressions may be different, word use may be slightly different. Brahma Sutra, one of the important sutras says, Tattu Samanvaya, the Samanvaya, non-contradictory sameness, the same message is given by every Upanishad. How do you say, Swamiji, this Om represents Ishvara? Pure Om represents Ishvara. Starts with the origin Dhatu, Ava, Av, Rakshane, that which protects. Or Dhatu meaning will be to protect. To that you add a pratyaya called Man. He who protects. Protects here includes creates, sustains, and destroys. Don't destroy. And who absorbs back in. Ava Rakshane with Man Pratyaya. It goes through various grammatical processes. By a process called Samprasarana, the Va becomes U. So it becomes Au. And the Man, the Nakara is deleted, is removed. Only remains. So you have A, U, and Ma. They don't remain A, U, and Ma. They combine to become Om. A, U, and really Because Nakara goes, remains. No, Ma. Ma and A remain. They all combine, they become O. whole thing becomes Om. Now, this is representing our Saguna Brahman, Ishvara. Therefore, one can use Om to reach Ishvara, to approach Ishvara. It's also called Mangala Suchaka. Every writing, every Upanishad, every mantra starts with Om. It's a prayer saying if you write something, may that writing end well. May it reach the people it's supposed to reach. One single syllable as a complete prayer. Here in Tamil Nadu, people have lost that quite a bit now. But when we were children, I remember anything you wrote, the first thing you wrote on top was a O symbol. It's actually an Om symbol. We didn't recognize what it was. We didn't know what it was, but we were told you should write that, we wrote. Like our Pragyananda. You know what Pragyananda is, no? The one who has beaten the world chess champion. Young kid. And he used to wear vibhuti. So once he became world famous, of course, a lot of TV interviews and things. So somebody asked him, what is he wearing on your forehead? He said, my mother told me to wear, so wear. End of story. We also used to write Om. Every page we would write, because we were told we should write. Mangala Suchaka. Why does Yamadharma Raja have to give Nachiketa a route to Saguna Brahman? Nachiketa is already an accomplished Shishya. He is asking a question which indicates his very advanced status. Anyatra dharmat, anyatra dharmat. Why should I give him this? Why not directly, even if he wants to only give Om as the symbol for what he wants to know, why shouldn't he just simply say Om it represents? For one, it's very difficult. He has to say that Om is you. Tattvamasi. Even though Nachika is an advanced student, it may not register. But equally important, if not more important, these Upanishads are meant as much for us as for Nachiketa. So every other student who wants to understand, some of us may be very advanced in the sense that our thinking is already there. We've done a lot of Shravanam Mananam. Therefore, we can go to the stage of saying, I use Om as a japa mantra. But there may be others who are not yet ready for that. Therefore, they use Om as a symbol for reaching out to Ishvara, Saguna Brahman. I didn't recognize it very much, but when I was about 7, 8 years old, there was a lady who I respected a lot, who used to do some kind of meditation. And she had this Om symbol written, although it is not a visual symbol, on a green background and kept in front of her when she sat down, closed her eyes and did her meditation. I asked her, why do you have that in front of you? She couldn't quite explain it. But she said the green is because it is easy. And I said, anyway, you're going to close your eyes. Why haven't you? I said, that's the beginning. At the beginning, you have the green and the very pious symbol Om. Om is not a visual symbol. Visual symbol is called a Pratima. This is a Pratika, a sound symbol. You would have heard many of these. Cream, Shreem, Aim, Cream, Fat. All these are single syllable Pratika. Each represent a deity. Shreem is, for example, Saraswati. When you do puja during the Navratri, use Om Aim Shreem. Om Aim Shreem Hreem. Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Durga. Called Bija Mantras. Like that, Om is also a Bija Mantra. Right? Om is the very Bija of Bija Mantras. So, in these 2 or 3 verses, 2 or 3 mantras, Yamadharmaraja takes up Om as the means to either reach out to Ishvara or to do dhyanam and try and reach that aparoksha jnanam. It is available for both. And the Dharmaraja will develop on this, and even more importantly, our Bhashyakara will develop on that. Here, if you remember, I think we read this. Tadetat padam.
Tadetat padam.
Yat bhubhutsitam tvaya.
Yad bubhutsitam
Tvaya.
Tadetat om iti.
Yadeda iti.
Tad etat om iti. Become tadetat om iti.
Tadedat om iti.
Om shabda vachyam.
Om
Shabda
Vachyam.
Or Om Shabda Pratikancha.
Om Shabda Pratikancha.
Both Om Shabda Vachyam and Om Shabda Pratikam. Because it's a pratikam, it is not used as a visual symbol. It's a sound. If you come to Ashravidyalaya, you don't find Om symbol anywhere. In many ashrams you will go, you will find Om symbols very prominently displayed. But Om is heard here all the time. So Acharya says, Tat padam etat yat bubhutsitam, that you wanted to know. Bubhutsitam tvaya, that was wanted by you. Tad etat om iti. And that Om Shabda, both Vachyam and Pratikam, both to be used to meditate upon Nirguna Brahman or as Upasana for Saguna Brahman. Om iti. There is a Tikakara, one very beautiful Tikakara, Anandagiri, who writes Tika on many of the Bhashyam. On this particular verse, he's written a few words. Other things he's not written much, but on this a few words are there. Sarve Veda iti. What does it say? It says, Vedaika Desha Upanishadaha. Ekadesha, Samanyam. Every Upanishad tells you the same thing. Therefore, when Yamadharma says, Sarve Veda Yat Padam Amananti, it's the same thing that every Upanishad will tell you. Sarve Vedati, Veda Ekadesha Upanishad. That's a single pointed. Anena, by that, Upanishadaha Jnana Sadhanatvena Sakshad Viniyuktaha Tapamsi Unita. With that, using this word, this symbol, what is represented in every Upanishad, it is this sadhana, jnana sadhanena, sakshat viniyuktaha. It is what every tapamsi, tesham, karma kandatmakanam, vedanam, whatever has been told, the religious discipline that has been defined in the karma kanda of every Veda, all of them, karmani, shuddhidvarena avagati sadhanani. You need to get to Sagana Brahman, you need to pray, you need to follow all the religious discipline in order to kramena get there. Therefore, he says, karmani shuddhadvarena avagati sadhanani. But some people are not ready for direct nididhyasanam because they need to do a lot more shravanam mananam. He calls them mandha adhikarinaha, vichara asamartasya. If they are not ready for vichara, not able to do that kind of vichara, kramena avagati sadhanam sankshipta aha. Therefore, he's given this also as a means for upasana. Use this as a Omkara Bashyam, Brahma Asmiti Dhyayet. That is the main purpose. That aparoksha jnanam, that Brahma, etc., words which represent I, which is I. That is what one should be looking at. However, tatra api asamartham om shabde eva Brahma drishtim kuryat ityarthaha. So it says Omkara Shabdam Pratikattvena Grihitva Pratimayamiva Vishnu Buddhivat. So you can use it for your upasana to Ishvara, Saguna Brahma Ishvara, or it can be your means for understanding Om as I. Om is everything. Om ite daksharam idam sarvam. We've seen in Mandukya Upanishad. Bhutam bhavad bhavishyatidi sarvam omkara eva. This, if you can understand, you don't have to worry about Saguna Brahmeshwara. Yachanyat trikalatitam tadapi omkara eva. That which transcends time is also omkara. And then he says, so up to this point, you can understand that everything is omkara. Sarvam hetat Brahma. That omkara is Brahma. All this time one studies Brahman, he says that Brahman is nothing but omkara. Then the crucial step, I am Atma Brahma. That Brahman is Atma, I. So both the first step, initial steps of understanding by getting Ishvara's grace through the upasana, prayer, through discipline of all the religious practices that is prescribed in our Vedas, individual Veda, whichever Veda is one's own Veda. One gains level of Atma Shuddhi, a level of Atma Shuddhi where Raga Dveshas have no role to play, where the Buddhi is very well prepared, ready to receive this knowledge. And then this knowledge itself, that Om, Brahman, I, Atma, all just that one intangible, complete, Ekameva Advitiyam I. He continues in the same vein. This Aksharam Brahma is both upasana and is param. And if you understand this Om, both through upasana you get Ishvara, through Jnanam you get moksha. So whatever you want, you get. Ataha Etadevaksharam Brahma
एतदेवाक्षरं ब्रह्म
Etadevaksharam Param
एतदेवाक्षरं परम्
Etadevaksharam Jnatva
एतदेवाक्षरं ज्ञात्वा
Yo Yadicchati Tasya Tat.
यो यदिच्छति तस्य तत्
Ask Pada is very interesting. Yo Yad Yaha Yad Ichchati Tasya Tat. You get whatever you desire. Now imagine if one had an option, an average human being had an option to get whatever he or she desires out of this 8.5 or 9 billion people in the world. What would most desire as the most desirable? Wealth, power, all kinds of other related things. That's not what he's talking about here. Yadichasi tasya tat. Yadichati tasya tat. Whatever we ask for, we get. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktah. Yo yam yam tanum bhaktah. Yasya aradhanam.
Pradayartamichasi.
Tadhyatamichati. Tadhyatamichati. Tasya tasya chalam shraddham tameva vidhamyaham. Bhagavan gives you that, depending upon what you ask for. Here also, one can use this to do upasana. You can do Devi upasana, you can do Shiva upasana, you can do whatever upasana you want. Using Om as the means to reach there, or any other Bijakshara. Or you can also gain Param. Etadhyeva Aksharam Aparam Brahma. That which is not Param. Every form of Ishvara which is non-I. Ishvara, which I imagine as non-I, not I, is available to you. Therefore, people who can follow Veda mantras and Veda injunctions very, very correctly can become any type of devata, depending upon which devata they have used as a deity. The one who focuses, who understands that the truth is to be learned, who is Jignasu, Brahmavit, gains knowledge of Brahman, Brahma eva bhavati. So, yadichhati tasya tat. You can recognize yourself as Brahman. Or you can aspire to become Indra. Or like Yamadharmaraja himself, he probably aspired to become Yamadharmaraja. He said, no, in one of the earlier verses, I didn't recognize this. Therefore, I got this Padam. Yamadharmaraja Padam. It's only later that I recognized the Purnatvam, and I got that as well, which I'm now teaching you. Etad eva aksharam aparam brahma. I'm adding the word aparam. Etad eva aksharam param. Same aksharam can help one gain that paramajnanam. Paramjnanam, not paramajnanam. It will become paramajnanam then. Focusing on this jnatva or upasya, depending upon what one's level of understanding is. One is a mumukshu and a jignasu, jnatva. Or you can say dhyatva, you can jnatva or upasya. You can either gain access to Saguna Brahman or you gain access to Nirguna Brahman. Etadevaksharam jnatva yo yadichyati tasya tat. Gains that. Let's read the Bashyam. They're very simple Bashyam. There's nothing much. It's really a repetition of the mantra itself, but we will read it. Etadevaksharam brahma.
Etadevaksharam brahma.
Bhashyakara makes it clear that this Brahma is aparam Brahma. Saguna Ishvara. It is available for doing that also. Etadevaksharam parancha.
Etadevaksharam parancha.
Param is what? Free of any kind of limitation. Desha kalu vastu anavachinna. Desha kala and vastu are creations. Karya. Therefore, you can also use param. Tayorhi pratikam etadaksharam. Of that, this pratikam etadaksharam, sound symbol. We saw sound symbol because you can also interpret it as sound symbol representing the entire creation and the creator in the form of Saguna Brahman, Ishvara with Maya. Or you can recognize it as I, Brahman. It can be used for both. Etadevaksharam jnatva.
Etadevaksharam jnatva.
Bhashyakara makes it clear. Or upasya. Either one focuses on gaining that knowledge, or one uses it for upasana, prayer to any deity form that you want. Brahmeti, upasya Brahmeti,
Upasya brahmeti.
yaditshati,
Yadikshati.
he who wants whichever. What he says is parama paramva.
Paramaparam
Either you
va.
get param or aparam. Paramva, aparamva. You can get either depending upon where one's readiness is. Tasya tat bhavati.
Tasya
He makes it amply clear. Param chet jnatavyam.
Param chet jnatavyam.
Aparam chet praptavyam.
Praptavyam.
If it is something aparam, anything other than this absolute knowledge of I, the reality, Purnatvam, has to be gained. Anything, starting from a small fish I have in this Jagat, all the way to trying to get Brahmaloka, all of them are something to be got, something to be gained, something to be praptavyam. Aparam chet praptavyam. Khyatavyam. But moksha is not praptavyam. Moksha is already there. Absolute freedom is already there. Nothing to gain, nothing to go, nowhere to go. You only have to know. Therefore, param chet jnatavyam. The lakshartham of whatever the Upanishad is trying to tell us. Sat Chit Anandam. Upanishad tells us Sat Chit Anandam Brahma. One has to understand the lakshartha of those words. Sat Chit Anandam Ananda Padanam Laksharthameva. Otherwise, we only recognize Ishvara. Tatastha Lakshanam, it's called. Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yatrayam vishanti. That from which the Jagat is born, because I cannot understand the Mithyatma of the Jagat. Therefore, I have to have an explanation for the creation of the Jagat. Therefore, I have to have a creator. I have to have a Karanam. And from that Karanam, the entire Jagat is created. Like from the clay, all these clay objects are created. And that creator is both Nimitta Karanam and Upadana Karanam in the form of Ishvara. And therefore I have, but Nachiketa very clearly already asked, tell me that which is beyond Karanam and Karya. But not everybody may have got to that stage of understanding. That Jagat Karanam, if you look at Om Japa, Om, 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 like any Japa, there is a Japa, a repeated pronunciation of the same mantra. There's a gap, and then it comes again. But the beauty of the Japa is this. We say Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. My mind is already focused. Mind knows Om Namah Shivaya, gap, it doesn't go anywhere because it knows Om Namah Shivaya is coming. Same thing with Om. Om, Om, Om. This is something sannyasis use. The Om represented with A, U and Ma, as we saw, is the entire Jagat. When we do multiplication, we will see how detailed that is explained. But when the three are over, there is a fourth level, not a fourth level, it is a level that contains all these three. Silence. That represents the Ekameva Aditya Brahman, you. But to understand this jnanam, to get ready to understand this dhyana, upasana. So both are available, and with clarity of understanding that a word represents an object, tangible or intangible, and they cannot be separated. But when it comes to understanding I, you cannot have a word. That is a knower itself. Therefore, that beautiful prayer of Kalidasa, Vagartiba Sampraktau, Vagarta Pratipattaye, Jagatau Pitarav Vande, Parvati Parameshwarau. Non-separable Vak and Vagartha, Pada and Padartha. This Om as a Pratika, Om as a Shabda Lakshartha, one has to understand. One more mantra he continues before he goes into an explanation of this nature of what you're asking for. Etadalambanam shreshtham.
Etadalambanam
Shreshtham.
Etadalambanam param.
Etadalambanam
Param.
param.
Etadalambanam jnatva.
Etadalambanam
Etadalambanam
jnatva.
jnatva.
Brahma loke mahiyate.
Brahmaloke
Brahmaloke
mahiyate.
mahiyate.
Alambanam means a support, a means. Etadalambanam shreshtam. The best alambanam. And it is also param. More or less a reiteration of the same message given in the previous mantra. Etadalambanam jnatva brahmaloke mahiyate. Again, brahmaloke can be either chaitanyam, recognition of the self as chaitanyam, chit swarupameva, or brahmaloka, everything up to brahmaloka. So in a sense, it's complete repetition of the previous mantra. This is the symbol for the highest form, Brahman, where it's only a matter of recognition, or as Saguna Brahman, that which is Mula Karanam for everything. Till one understands what is Mithya, this will remain. Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. Till that recognition comes of the Mithyatvam of the Jagat. Mithyatvam, including that of Ishwaratvam, is Mithya. We will talk more about this in the next class. Ishwaratvam is Mithya. Ishvara is Brahman. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.